Knockout legends in the building. Like, comment, and subscribe. So today I want to talk about Carl Froch and Froch on Fighting. He gives his opinion on the Joshua Helenius fight and gives his predictions for the Deontay Wilder fight if it comes into fruition. So I'm going to play the clip here. So with no further ado.
Over here to watch it. Sat there watching it, and there was a lot of things that happened through the night where I was a little bit confused by. So we'll go into that in a minute. But Anthony Joshua's performance for me was a 5 out of 10 performance. Okay, he got the job done. He knocked out Helenius in round 7 with a decent set it up with a body shot, threw an overhand right hand, and knocked Helenius out. I mean, Helenius was exhausted by that point, which is why I thought the knockout came. AJ timed him nicely with the jab to the body, then brought the right hand over the top. Helenius was moving away from the shot, which took the sting out of the punch. So I don't think he was knocked out cold, but he was exhausted. And I think once he got hit with that shot and he went over, he probably thought to himself, you know what, I've earned my money. I'm not going to win the fight. I'm not getting paid for overtime. So let's stay down and go home. Why wouldn't he? Boxed a week earlier against nobody that sets him up for AJ, let's be honest. And it was a late replacement. It was poor. It was a weak opponent for this stage of AJ's career, who's now looking at fighting somebody like Deontay Wilder, the big round 1 El Sparko. He actually knocked out Helenius 2 fights ago in the first round. And I think Anthony Joshua, if he's looking at fighting Deontay Wilder on the back of that performance was awful. It was terrible. It was such a bad performance in so many ways. It was tentative. It was gun shy. He looked like he didn't want to be in there at times. He was getting outboxed with a weak, poor jab. Helenius was sticking the jab out and just smashing it, ramrodding it in AJ's face. It was a poor, weak jab. He wasn't setting up. He was just throwing his jab. It was well easily timeable. If someone throws a jab like that to you, slip to the right hand side and throw your big right hand, or get underneath it and throw a big uppercut and then step in behind 3 or 4 shots. It would have been out of there in 1 or 2 rounds, like what Deontay Wilder did to him. But Anthony Joshua was sitting back, waiting, looking confused, looking like he didn't know, he was scared to throw, he looked a bit gun shy, and I just think knackered by round 7. He'd had enough. He'd absolutely bust up AJ behind the jab, smashed his eye, all swellings under his eyes, his nose was pissing with blood, his mouth was all bleeding, as we saw when he jumped out the ring, which was a bit strange, and had a slurp on that nasty Irish stout that Conor McGregor shoved in his face. And all blood and snot and sweat all inside that pint. And how unprofessional is that? AJ jumps out the ring, a bit disrespectful as well. Before Helenius is receiving medical attention, he jumps out the ring. Okay, fair play. Go and see your dad. Go and see your family. You've just won a fight and you're a bit nervous and you want to get the victory and there's a lot of pressure on you. Okay, fine. But don't go over to Conor McGregor, who's trying to steal the show, making probably a really expensive suit look fucking really cheap, because he just looks like a scruffy bastard. Standing around at ringside, shouting and talking bollocks, trying to be centre of attention. Shoves that nasty Irish stout in AJ's face. He shouldn't have drunk that stout, because that stout could have been contaminated. He's got to do a post-fight drug test. Very unprofessional from Anthony Joshua. But anyway, that's my little rant on that bit over.
So you're saying
So from the clip there, we get a lot to unpack and go through, like dirty luggage. Anyway, Carl Froch starts off with Joshua's performance and he is highly critical of it, and he thinks, based off Joshua's performance, that he will have a lot of problems with Deontay Wilder. Now, I kind of agree with some points that Carl Froch says, but not everything. Now, Joshua did take his time and he did get rounds in with Helenius, but the reason why I think he did this is, one, he wasn't sure how Helenius would come out, and when Helenius fought the way he fought, he had to figure out what was the best way to deal with Helenius based off how he was fighting, because he wasn't aggressive but he wasn't actually defensive. He was a kind of a mix between the two, and he kind of stood his ground in the ring, so he was ready to trade. And yeah, Joshua got hit, but Joshua's never had head movement, we know this. He's never really had decent head movement, but to be fair, his head movement was a lot better than it normally is. And Joshua always knows always gets broken. He got broken in the Povetkin fight, and it's been broken before. Yeah, he took a lot of jabs. Maybe that's down to the strength of Helenius' power, and maybe people are underestimating that. Also, Kawanaki underestimated that, and he got punished for that and kept getting stunned every time he tried to come in and rush in and attack. That's probably why Joshua took his time. He remembered what happened to Kawanaki. Now, everyone keeps going about the Deontay Wilder defeat and the knockout. Deontay Wilder straight away fought on the back foot like Tyson Fury in his first fight with Wilder. And it's actually interesting that he did that, because like obviously he's probably learned that since he's been under Malik Scott, and it seems like it's a good tactic, because maybe he knew if he went and met Helenius head on, he would lose because of the reach and the power, because Helenius does have power, even though people don't think he does. Anyway, Helenius walked onto the shot, he timed it, and he got him, and he knocked him out. So that's that. Everyone's going on like Wilder was the aggressor in that fight when he wasn't. And Helenius' idea would have had merit if he could move like Tyson Fury, and if he had the actual size and build of Tyson Fury, and head movement, and just overall ring IQ to do that, and chin. That may have worked, but obviously with Helenius being Helenius, and other times he's been knocked out, and the short notice that he comes in on fights, and basically the years and the time that's passed, it's non-feasible to do that. So, because he didn't do that against Kawanaki. But anyway, I digress. So, in that respect, I kind of don't agree with Carl Froch on that point there. And I still think if Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder fight, I still think Anthony Joshua will win. He may get dropped. I don't think he'll get knocked out, but I think he would win. I think he will actually knock out Wilder, or he will win on points boxing him, because he's got a better engine than Wilder. He's got better ring IQ than Wilder as well, and he's got a better technique, boxing technique. So he's just got to learn how to actually deal with Wilder's right hand and not get hit by it and not get knocked out, basically. That's all. If he can nullify that and nullify Wilder and tire him, he will actually beat Wilder. So I'm not saying Wilder's completely unskilled and he can't box, but Joshua's the better boxer out of the two, and he's got the better stamina out of the two, even though he's bigger, and he's also got the better technique as well. And I would hesitate to say he's got the better defense in a sense, because Wilder sometimes is reckless. So if Wilder's reckless at the wrong time and he counter punches him, he could stop Wilder. So there's that. So, but some of the things that Froch mentioned in Froch on Fighting about Joshua's behaviour, again, it's the same thing that's mirrored by the TalkSport duo of Adi and Gareth A. Davis, and what they were saying about some of the behaviour, what Joshua did was a little bit disrespectful. Now, walking out the ring and then going to the fans and high-fiving is one thing, but the drinking of the stout, I didn't actually know about that until I saw a little bit more of the footage of that. That was unprofessional, and it was stupid as well. I agree with Froch on that, because he could have got done for PEDs and then basically got banned. And I don't know why you're drinking stout. I don't even get that. You're an athlete, you shouldn't even be drinking alcohol. So that's one point there where I agree with Froch. And it was disgusting, blood, snot, whatever, yeah. What he mentioned about Anthony Bridges, well, I'm not even going to go into that, because if you know what you know about boxing and you know what you know about certain boxers, I'm not even going to mention sex in this scenario, you kind of know what you're seeing. So you don't need to even comment on that as a female boxer and as a world champion and whatever. It is what it is, I suppose. And she got to where she got to by basically putting herself out there and marketing herself. So that's what she's doing. I think she's doing that as a promotional tool to make money. The way she's going about it's wrong, but hey, the UK is where it's at when it comes to making money in boxing. That's why everyone comes here. And people keep saying that Joshua, this thing about him saying that he carried the heavyweight division on his back and what he mentioned, and he, you know, the slogan what he used was basically a lie. Maybe it is a lie now, but before we got defeated by Usyk, it was possibly the truth. And even before he got defeated by Andy Ruiz, it was the truth, because everyone was heralding him. Everyone wanted to fight him. He was the cash cow. It's where the money was. So, and even still, it's where the money is now, because without Joshua, you wouldn't be getting these big stadium fights. You wouldn't be getting these Saudi Arabia fights. You wouldn't be getting any of these big fights anyway. So that a mega monster money. So in that respect, he did that division. He did. And Wilder and Fury's career wouldn't have took off from where it's took off to where it is now. And they always use his name and name drop him and use him as a promotional tool to sell their fights. Because if you look at the numbers up until now and compare them and contrast, Joshua's going to have better numbers. Now, what he was saying about Joshua needs basically not to take the Wilder fight, and if he's doing it, he's only doing it for the money. Fair enough, that's granted. But we already know Joshua's in it for the money. He's been in it for the money from day one. He's admitted that. So that there I agree with as well. But we know it's about the money. If it wasn't about the money, he wouldn't have fought Helenius 5 days notice. He would have fought somebody else, or he wouldn't have fought at all. So when he's saying that Eddie Hearn saying that he saved a day and this, that and the other, well, it's an element of truth, but it's also an element of basically exaggeration, because it's about the money for either parties, and he signed a contract, so he always honours his contract. He always honours his mandatories, and he always honours whichever opponent he has to fight, he fights. So that's that in that nutshell. Anyway, other things that Froch was saying about Joshua, I guess getting the impression, since Joshua mentioned the things about Rob McCracken and the way Froch feels about Joshua, there's a bit of jealousy, and the jealousy spills over in the comments, where sometimes, yeah, Froch is being honest, but he's still using it to stick the knife in, because he's a bit snide. Because on one aspect, you're saying what you're saying about the guy, and it's always negative, but when you see him, you still want to shake hands or be his friend or be at least civil, when you've already said what you said. And we know Joshua doesn't take criticism well. He might not react or flare up or get mad there and then at the moment, but you see how his body language is with people that have said bad things about him. Is he doesn't really have time for them, and he's sort of like dismissive, in the sense that, not that he's distracted. I think he does that on purpose to not deal with the person, because he doesn't want to deal with them. I think that's probably what the problem is with the TalkSport interview, where Addy was saying that it's like he was distracted. I don't think it's that. I think he just doesn't want to deal with those specific parties because of what they've said in the past, and what the platform, what they're on, represents, and what that they have actually spread about him. So he can't out and out curse them or slag them off. So he does it in a roundabout sort of passive aggressive way, where he goes away from them and kind of not shows them any attention, because the attention's on him. So he drains the energy from that person that requires him to entertain them, basically. So anyway, what do you think on Carl Froch's words? Do you think they're true? Do you think there's a bit of vitriol in what he's saying and he's bitter? Or do you agree with everything he says 100%? Or is there only certain things you agree with and certain things you don't? And do you think Joshua will get starched out if he fights Deontay Wilder next? So leave your comments in the comment section, like, comment and subscribe. And that is another one from Knockout Legends. Peace.